It is great to see everybody here. You know, we've been talking about some very, very controversial subjects recently, one being the family. And we're going to get into what the family is all about. Specifically, we're going to talk about my family, because I talk about my family a lot. I talk about Lisa, I talk about the kids, I talk about some of the highs and lows and some of the difficulties and some of the great stuff that we're going to get into today. You'll see behind me some of the different pictures from, well, pretty much our entire marriage. There we are jumping for joy. I don't know what happened there, but you see all sorts of pictures. And there we are in Washington, D.C. That's at Mount Vernon. Isn't that right? You ever heard of Mount Vernon? Yeah. It's cool. It's cool. That was in London. I spoke there a couple months ago. That was cool. That's on our porch. So anyway, let me welcome the Young family. Lisa, the Twin Towers, you guys sit down. Have a seat, sit down. Sit down. Wow, how things have changed, and also how things haven't changed. We're going to take some of these hot questions from you guys. You've been emailing to us and texting to us, and we're going to talk about it. This is totally unrehearsed. We have not gone through, you say this, you laugh, whatever. This is kind of dangerous. Parents, you kind of feel my pain, don't you? Parents? Yeah, if you have like little toddlers, you're like, why should you be nervous? You wait until they get to be teenagers, you'll be, whoa!
No, they should be nervous with toddlers, because our toddlers said
That's
some
true.
things at Mother's Day out that were just really, whoops.
So we're putting our whole ministry on the line right here.
Absolutely.
Anyway.
And every service, the questions have been different. So last night, it was a totally different body of questions than what we have today. So we did not see them before the Saturday service.
Right.
We have not seen these.
But I want to encourage you to come on Saturday night. That's right, all of you are watching by way of satellite. Saturday night.
That have an opportunity, because Miami doesn't have an opportunity.
That's right, I'm
on
sorry,
Saturday
Miami.
night.
But here you do. And the reason is sometimes we add some extra little funk on Saturday that we don't on Sunday. You might be going, what are you talking about? Well, again, just look and see what happened last night. We brought all of our dogs on stage while we did this.
Yeah, 6 dogs with 6 people. It worked out. It was a 1-to-1 ratio, so we
It was
did
perfect.
Okay.
Anyway, you missed that. You missed it.
A lot of slobber, some barking.
And they had some great answers to some of the questions.
Yes, they did.
They really did.
Whenever we couldn't do it, we just said, hey, Chloe, what do you think?
That's right.
It worked out well.
Well, let's go to the first question, guys. You ready? We got
Sure.
Landra, Laurie, they're 15. EJ, 17. And lovely Lee Beth, 22, still at home. and we'll talk about that later. I can tell some people in the upper balcony are going like, whoa, yeah, don't worry, we will address that. I'm kidding.
I have nowhere else to go.
For now.
Okay, let's start. This is from the DeWolf family, from beautiful Grapevine. What are some differences between the way your parents disciplined you and the way you discipline your children, Lisa?
Okay, well, my mom was a very strong disciplinarian. My dad was a little bit more Mr. Friendly, a little more passive, but he was firm in the rules and regulations of our home. But my mom tended to be the application of the discipline because she was home with us. And since Ed and I started dating at 15, I saw kind of the discipline of his family. His dad was the more strong disciplinarian, and his mother, your mom, was pretty passive in that. Okay,
I want to throw that question to the kids. Which one of us, Laurie, for example, would be the stronger one? Which one would be?
Dad, but no question. Dad, you balance each other out, but Dad, we can get stuff past you.
Yeah, like our phones.
But what, Landra?
What?
Well, we can get stuff past Dad sometimes.
But in a good way.
Understand.
We can get stuff past Dad.
You can get stuff past Dad, really?
No, but like, no.
Wait,
like, if we want our phones back, like when we asked you, like for instance, this week, and I was like, Mom, can I have my phone back? And then you're like, no. And then I'll be like, Dad, can I have my phone back? And you'll be like, you like want to say yes, but you're like, did you ask your mom? I hate that question.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes. That's okay.
The best is Dad, if Mom's lecturing us, she'll look over at Dad and he'll be like, yeah, what she said.
Yeah, what do we do?
What does like agree with Dad does? Or like Dad says.
Okay, well.
I love it. No, but he's really strong. Like he
Yeah,
helps.
when you do get strong, like
They balance each other out.
Okay, but this is the thing this is my take on. Ed will come in and say, we have our boundaries and our rules and regulations in the household, obviously. And when one of the kids crosses the line, I tend to be the one that's there. So, and then he'll weigh in on it because I'll bring an issue if it's big enough to him. I don't do that with every single issue because they're not big. If you make it big, sometimes you're blowing things out of proportion. But those things that warrant, we'll talk about it. And Ed will be the one that hands down the discipline. But where the issue lies is the enforcement of the discipline. Ed is so ADD, he does not remember.
He forgets all the time.
That he has discilline.
He forgets that he grounds us.
I am like the ADD pill for Ed that makes sure it all happens. So, there you go. Do you think?
I think so. That's right.
Okay.
And too, when, like for example, we'll talk about this maybe, when Libeth was growing up, especially hitting the teen years, many times those can be very tumultuous with, the mom and the daughters, the proverbial cat fights. So what I've discovered over the years of parenting is when you have these arguments and conflicts, which will happen, especially, I don't know why, but it seems more so with the females.
The female species.
The female species. But Lisa will drag me into it, or they will try to drag me into the fight. And I've learned very, very quickly, I always back Lisa. Guys, listen to me. Read my lips because I've messed up on this. Back your wife, back your wife, back your wife. Because if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, and that is a fact. But also it's biblical. That line, if mom ain't happy, ain't nobody happy, that's biblical because it's saying you got to be operating off the same page.
Okay, wait a minute. We're not going to leave that yet. Because Libeth and I, even before her teenage years, Libeth is very strong-willed. I don't know if it was because of the firstborn. I was probably more nervous as a mother. And so we did have a lot of conflict that I don't have with Laurie and Lander and EJ. And part of it, I rests on my shoulders, and then also with her personality type and just the fact that she's very strong-willed. Strong-willed children are not just born randomly into a household. They generally come from strong-willed parents. So, it's on us. But one of the things that we found that I found was that I would get on Libeth's level and take issue with her on her level. And that is so not good. Once I learned the strategy of, look, Lisa, you're the mom. Here are the boundaries. Lay those boundaries out clearly. When she crosses over, don't go to the cat fight. Don't get into the nitty gritty. This is the way it is, Libeth, and then walk away. The most disarming thing to that controversy would be me saying, this is the way it is, and then walking away. It was disarming to Libeth because she really enjoyed the engagement. And I think I was beginning to enjoy the engagement, although I would go to Ed and say, this is just killing me. It's killing me. Step in. And then when it comes to Ed, I would say, I think he had a hard time understanding, what is this? What is the issue? I don't even see what you're fighting about. And so, but my point was, look, you're my Prince Charming. You're my rescuer. And so I think if a lot of men would understand that for me as a wife, that was what I wanted from Ed. I wanted to be rescued because I was in way over my head. She was way better than me at the fight. And so I just needed the rescuing and for you to stand beside me as Prince Charming.
And see, EJ is the smartest one of the whole bunch. He just kind of does that. He just sits back and lets it go. He just chills and eating another piece of pizza. EJ eats more pizza than any human being in the history of the world. Isn't that right?
Let's go.
Let's do another one. Okay. For the kids. What is the single best thing your parents did, or the best example, I'm going to ask you this, EJ, they set for you growing up?
Just to be committed and stay in the church. I mean, volunteer anytime you get an opportunity, and just really stay committed. And the family is the hospital.
Okay, so stay committed. That's a good answer.
He's been listening.
You've been listening, yeah. And the family is a hospital. That's a novel idea. I love that. Lee Beth? Anything else?
There's been a lot, but I think the question was about, what's the best thing, right?
Yeah,
okay.
like an example or the best thing that we've done.
Their marriage has been probably the best thing for me. The fun that they have has been a big, big thing for me to see just how life can be fun, how they make fun. Pretty much about anything can be fun, but that it's always about their marriage. Like us kids, I know we're great, but the marriage is for sure the priority. And that, even though, when you're growing up, it's like, oh, they care more about them two than us. But you got to get over that and realize that's the biggest blessing in the world, because as we grow up, we know how we're supposed to live life based on what we've seen through their relationship. So I think y'all's being committed to each other, going on date nights, all that good stuff that y'all do and teach about has been the best thing for me.
I appreciate that, Lee Beth. It's it's definitely been, and Lisa and I talk about this openly and honestly, we've written about it a lot. It's definitely a struggle at times. It's also hard work. And I found that discipline is very, very hard work when you discipline your kids. And the whole thing that Lisa said is a great take home for all of us, because we give that command, or we give the directive, and instead of engaging in the fight, instead of mudslinging, what do? It's best to turn and walk away and allow the consequences, allow the results of their behavior to hit the coastline of their soul and who they are. So,
and more than that, going back with what Lee Beth said, is just the unified front. Yeah. And I know in a single parent home, that's very difficult. Yes. But if you have, good communication with your ex, the father of your child, the mother of your child, then you need to be talking about these things and then trying to find as much common ground as you can so that you too can be on a unified front, because mixed signals for a child are very, very confusing. And so for us to be able to impute on them, give them, impart on them some togetherness and the fact that we're unified and we're going to stand strong with this.
Okay, here's another question from Emily over in Fort Worth. Here we go. How are you able to keep it all together while both of you have busy schedules, kids having to do this and that, places to be, etc.?
Okay, I'm going to start with that, and then I'll let the kids weigh in. I'll let Laurie and Landra weigh in on scheduling and...
For eating dinner?
Eating dinner?
What's the question?
Are you hungry?
No, I didn't hear the question. What's the question?
No, the question is about how do you keep it all together as a family when there's so much, Dad and I have busy schedules, you guys have school, sports, things like that. How do we keep it together? And I would say the number one thing is your priorities. And Ed and I, we've had the same priorities since that picture right there when it was just Lee Beth, to tonight or today when it was all of us. Yeah,
Lee Beth said those were the good old days. Yeah, the only child. That's good.
But yeah, she loved those years for sure. But the priorities are the same, and the priorities are our marriage is first, our relationship with Christ, and because of that, our marriage, and then our involvement at Fellowship Church. And then everything else flows out of that. And we have to prioritize. And whether it's sports or any other activity, we do not say yes to an activity that takes away from those top priorities. There's no compromise. Now, obviously, if there's a tournament or something on the weekend, we work it out. The Fellowship Church is so cool because we have services all the time. I mean, you pretty much can be sometime at church here on the weekend. And so,
we have more times than most movies are shown during the weekends.
That works out great as far as sports and athletics. But if anything, more than anything, it's priorities.
Yeah, y'all say no to a lot to say yes to church and stuff. I know that like church is number one, and I meet my true friends there, and like, I don't know.
That's how we set up. Landra, what about with sports and stuff like that growing up?
I think revolving around the church makes it easier.
Okay, what about Landra with soccer? You remember when we went through the whole thing about you wanted to do
soccer and basketball?
Well, it was just the fact that we were doing so many different activities.
Well, I had soccer on Sunday mornings, and I completely quit that because of church.
In order to be able to do the club.
And now I play basketball, and it's so much easier because I can go to church and do everything else. So I think we balance it pretty well.
Okay.
Yeah, and we said no to that because of the bigger yes.
Yes.
Yes, that's what you were saying. Now, here is something that's very controversial, and we got a lot of questions about spanking. And we'll be happy to address that. Lisa will be happy to talk about that. Anthony from Grapevine, did you use spanking when the kids were younger? Now that's a
Black Beauty.
Black Beauty.
The name of the belt.
Yeah, it was a belt named Black Beauty.
Wow. Okay.
Hey, I don't have a belt named Black Beauty.
Dad made it a joke. The one who called it Black Beauty, of course, the more passive parent, Dad, making it a joke. Let's bring out Black Beauty. And, it was more a joke to him.
Yeah, I'd make the sound effects. All that.
And so we were just laughing the whole time, so it wasn't that intense.
I can't hardly remember a time that you've ever spanked the kids.
No. Dad would end up laughing at what we did.
No.
You gave me like 100 spankings one time.
Okay,
you did it so easy.
I mean, the Bible says,
it's on a
spare
serious
the rod.
note.
It does. The Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. And now that, how do you...
I think with any issue, Ed and I spanked our children. It was not something that happened a lot because we used other forms of discipline, time out when it was appropriate. We used, taking something away. But there were times that I used, you had Black Beauty, I had the special spanker. And the special spanker was a spatula.
And it stayed in the glove compartment of your car when I was little, remember?
Yeah. The glove compartment, was not a big threat. But anyway, Focus on the Family was a go-to source for me as a young mom. I mean, I read a lot of their stuff from James Dobson and Focus on the Family, Temper Your Child's Tantrums. The only the only child that had tantrums was Lee Beth. She had one that I can remember. And it was in Target at the checkout line, and that's because they put those demonic racks with everything that a child wants at the very end that every mother has to say, no, you can't have that, no. So I did, we used, I used the spatula just to tap on the hand. I want to say she was 2, and, send your emails, whatever, I don't care, but it wasn't, I will tell you this, I think everything that is so difficult about the spanking issue is because we live in a fallen world. Our culture sees the very extreme side of what's horrible. The beatings, the using it out of context, all of those different things, and they see the bad side of that. But then you have a family that uses spanking like, tap, tap with a slight bit of pain that redirects. Again, that was just an element of our discipline. It was not our discipline, the discipline that we would go to all the time. There were a lot of other things that we did. So my word would be, yes, we did spank. Would I do it again? Absolutely, because I think it's biblical. And from that, I would say have balance. Don't ever discipline your children in anger if you have, which I've been guilty of. Count to 10, go to another room, come back, but address the issue at hand and use the proper discipline that goes with the issue.
And can I say this? One thing that I think was huge that I don't think you mentioned was if you did spank us or discipline us, you would always do it away from public. Because you see people in grocery stores just whacking their kids, like spanking them, and it's kind of awkward when you're sitting there. And
first of all, call social services,
Yeah.
But I think it's important for the self-esteem of the child to pull them away.
Not embarrass them.
Right. But if they did awful behavior in public and I needed to discipline them in public, I would pull them aside and talk to them, not yell at them. But I also would say, you know, your action was in front of all these people. You go and apologize to them when they were old enough to do so. But I did pull them aside.
Okay, what age were your kids when you talked about the birds and the bees with them? This is what Thomas from
Who are the birds and the bees?
asked.
You just talk about sex.
I would say it starts from the moment they're born. It's an educational process as they see and as they learn, and then you just talk to them progressively.
Yes.
Would you say it's just like, okay, here's the talk, you know?
Well, there was the
Here's
talk.
the State of the Union address, you know?
Yeah. That's good.
That's
State
pretty
of the
good, isn't it?
Union. Union,
That makes
get it?
sense. Union, yeah. Somebody call somebody. That's good. That's good.
EJ, tell us about
Yes.
the talk. Oh, you relaxed one.
What's the question?
No,
Like when you told me?
About the sex talk.
When you told me?
Yeah, just tell about our family
I
philosophy.
mean, don't say everything I told you.
I remember you told me is when I was like 10 years old and we were going fishing and you just gave me the talk. You just said EJ ...
Yeah. Were you surprised about that?
Yes, I was pretty surprised.
Who wouldn't be surprised? Yeah, that's pretty
I didn't see
surprising.
it coming because we had just gotten pizza, so.
The way we handled that in our family pretty much is Ed handled EJ, I handled the girls. Although the girls told me last
Dad
night
was in there.
that Dad was there when we talked to the twins, maybe because
Weren't
I
you,
was...
Dad?
No, yeah, he was.
We were in y'all's bedroom.
I don't remember.
Wow.
How do you
But,
not?
and then I talked to Lee Beth, and then it was funny because years later, Lee Beth said that I did not do that great of a job. So,
You didn't tell me. You just gave me the real basics. It wasn't enough.
well, this is the other. Now I will debate you on this. See, here we go. That.
But your parents never mentioned the S word.
Oh, they didn't mention the P word, pregnant, in our home. Is that amazing? I mean, we just didn't talk about stuff like that.
Our family did.
Hed's family was totally different, very wide open. And so when I talked to Lee Beth, she was in the 3rd grade, I got a book. She told me that the book said for 4 to 5-year-olds, and she was in the 3rd grade, but I just felt like that was a good place to start. So anyway, I talked to her, then asked her if she had any questions, and actually she did ask me a question I didn't know. I said, you know what, I'll get back to you. And I got the information and said something. She had some very insightful things that she said when she was 10 years old. So, but because it had been a progressive thing, they had seen, when you maybe are wondering, well, how do you teach your children about sex when they're 2 or 3? Well, they see, number one, that the master bedroom, your bedroom, is a sanctuary. And that is mom and dad's space. That's a huge teaching thing, that this is a reverent space. Our marriage is reverent, the date nights, all of that builds upon the fact that, you know, sex is a very beautiful thing that God created, and there was no shame in telling them that. We're very open about, you know, in communication for them if they have questions to come to us, and I think that it's just a natural progression. But by the 3rd grade, you need to be, or right around that time, having a talk, one-on-one, parent to child, because if you don't, someone else will. And I just read a statistic from 2005, 2006 television ratings that the #1 show among female girls aged 9 to 12, not Hannah Montana, it was Desperate Housewives, followed by The OC. And if you don't think those 2 shows are teaching your children about sex, you're crazy. So they're giving a sexual framework. That is why we as parents, you as a mom or a dad, need to have the talk with your child, give them the truth, let the church be the place that supports that. But the #1 place to hear about sex is in the home with the parents, not the television, and at the local church.
Here's a great one. Georgia. I like that name. Georgia writes, how do you keep yourselves and your children humble in such a materialistic world?
That's a good question.
Well, answer it, Lambert.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if I can answer that, but
What? I can't hear you.
I can't hear you.
I don't
Talk
know if I
louder.
can answer it.
You just
Okay,
answer.
how do you humble?
Somebody.
All right, for example, you enjoy fashion and shopping and stuff like that. So how do you handle when you can't have everything you see?
I get mad.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard because there's so many cute stuff out there, but.
Okay, and so how do you balance that out? What do we do to balance that?
Have like boundaries on what you can have and what you can't.
Okay. One of the things that we say to the kids is not, we can't afford that, is we choose not to spend our money that way. Whenever you say to your children over and over and over again, we can't afford that, we just can't afford that, we just can't afford that, then money becomes God. It becomes the ultimate thing that they want to achieve so that they can go buy anything and everything and satisfy every desire. So we just say, look, you know what, we could choose to spend our money here or there, but we want to be good stewards of what God has given us. And in, reality, you don't have to have this right now. You don't have to have that at this particular time. So we try to balance it.
I believe also we talk, I said I don't believe it, I know, we talk very openly and honestly about bringing the tithe here to Fellowship Church. And then furthermore too, Lisa, we talk openly and honestly about giving things that matter to us,
to other people,
to others, and I think our kids have seen that, and it's very, very exciting for me to see them do the same thing.
Yeah, hopefully, if what we're teaching them is that when they see someone who is in need, to be the facilitator of satisfying that need, to making sure, knowing that the number one need that everyone has is a relationship with Christ. That's the most generous thing that we can do for anybody, is to share with them the love of God. And then after that, to take care of material needs.
And usually materialism begins where your income ends.
That's
so
right.
It's something that everybody has to deal with, whether you make tens of millions a year, whether you make tens of thousands a year. It's that deal, but it's a definite struggle, and I think we need to be open and honest that God is blessed.
God is the source. God
Yeah.
is the source of everything. Your humility lies in that fact. That if you ever think that you're the source of your income or you're the source of what you have, that's where pride steps in and God walks out. And so humility is all about us constantly saying, God has blessed us. And He has. He has blessed us beyond measure.
That's a good question. Good answer. Let me see what else. But we have some awesome questions. Oh, this is a good one. How old are the kids when you have to start watching out for the kids becoming the CEOs of the family? That means the chief executive officer of the family.
The first second of their life. That's when it starts. I mean, really and truly, when you go from a husband and wife to bringing a baby home, and your whole world changes. Anyone who has ever been told, it won't change.
Oh, girls, here's a good one.
Yeah, it changes. So from the first second, you have to prioritize again and keep the marriage the main thing and continue to hawk the priorities of your family. Your children do not set the priorities of your family. You do. They are the children.
Yes.
You are the parent. You know more than they know, don't we?
Yes, you do.
I learn that each and every day.
And the older Libeth has gotten, the more she goes, gosh, Mom, that's right. We're smarter than we used to be in their eyes.
Yep.
So, yay.
Do you allow your kids to text, asks Michelle from Grapevine. If so, do you read their messages before you allow them to be deleted? When it comes to cell phones, what boundaries do you give them?
Every night.
Let Lander answer that.
Yeah, later.
Yeah, Landon, why don't you tackle that one? It'd be nice.
Tell us about the phone rules.
Well, I put my phone up at 9, and I let my parents read all my messages.
9 o'clock is the time of collectology.
Oh, yes,
That's
and
collectology
laptops.
and
Yeah,
laptops.
collectology, whatever.
Yep.
And then, but usually, when I come from school or something, or I've been texting, like, say on a Saturday, I give my phone to my mom, and she reads all my messages.
Or just like random time.
At random times.
Yeah,
so.
I don't check their messages all the time, but I'm able to check them at any time.
She texts my friends, too, sometimes.
Sometimes
On
I'll
my phone.
step in. But Facebook, that's a
She's my
very
friend.
controversial thing. But, Ed and I have said, you're not supposed to be your child's friend. You're their parent. The only exception is Facebook. If they're going to be on Facebook, you're their friend on Facebook.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And Lisa, again, what we're talking about is work, W-O-R-K.
It's awful.
I mean, this is like, I want to just kind of sit back and relax. I mean, you got to just be on 24/7,
I go and look
man.
at the pictures that are posted. I look at the pictures that their friends tag them on. And I know, and you might be saying, wow, you're very invasive. Yeah, you're right, I am. I'm their mom. I bought that computer.
Yeah.
We bought it.
And we have such a big responsibility in such a short window of time. We got to take advantage of it.
Take a panoramic view at our culture. I'm sorry. If we do not become more invasive in our children's lives out of love, not out of control, but out of love because we want the best for them, nobody's watching their back like Ed and I are. Nobody. And nobody's watching your child's back like you. So you've got to be the proactive parent who says, you know what, I care enough to do this work. I care enough to check on your texts. I care enough to look at what you're doing. I care enough to say no to going to a certain friend's house because I don't know their parents. We don't have necessarily the same values. It doesn't mean that they can't come into our home, but I'm going to put boundaries around where you can and cannot go, who you can and cannot hang out with, and who you will communicate with on technology. No apologies at all.
And that's why too, Lisa, that's why too that, you know, I teach and preach so much and we write so much about revolving everything around the local church. Now there's one question that a relational and marital and family expert has asked us because I recognize the name.
Oh.
This is going to be a really good question right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, here's the question. This is for Lisa and Lee Beth.
Who asked this? Let me see.
No, we can't. The launching process, you can tell this guy's really intelligent. The launching process of a young adult out of the home can be chaotic. Lisa, how are you letting go of your daughter and, quote, launching her, unquote? Lee Beth, how are you breaking away and creating your own life?
Oh. Hey, Ed and I are both launching Lee Beth out.
And we are too.
I know. The only reason I'm home. Okay, I was gone, and then I made a reappearance back into the home. I went away to school for 3 years.
Yeah, she went away to college
and I'm only
for
home
2 years, Lee Beth.
Great.
It was
2
3.
years. No, it's 2.
2005 to 2007. Wait.
No, 2. Freshman, sophomore.
You've been at home
Yeah.
forever.
I know.
She's,
Okay.
But we love her.
yeah, I love you. Like, I love going to you.
But I'm only temporarily in the house. I am
She's
planning on
finishing
moving
up
out.
school. I mean, it's the best place for Lee Beth
Because
to
I
be
do
right
not
now.
have a desire, as much as I love this whole thing, I do not have a desire to be there for much longer because my parents have done an excellent job at preparing me to be independent. And so I already am starting to think, okay, I want to go my own way, do my own things. So, yeah.
Yeah, so
I'm ready just as much as they're ready.
Lee Beth should graduate in December. So that's when she will be seeking to work to be, but you know, she's got to get a little bit of an income so that she can get an apartment, get a place to live, and then she'll be moving out.
But the other day, it was our day off, and the kids were at school. It was on Friday, and Lisa and I were in our house alone, which is a rarity
And a blessing.
and a blessing. Yeah, and I'm sitting on our front porch, and I see Lee Beth drive up, and I'm sipping coffee at about 10
this is gonna
o'clock
sound
a.m.
That was the fastest U-turn I
And
ever
I
made.
go like this.
Yeah. Seriously.
We have a turnaround thing in front of our house, and she just turned around, and I
rolled down the window. I go, hey.
I didn't even smile, didn't even frown, just.
Yeah. I didn't even get to finish my sentence. I was, bye.
That sounds so mean, but you know what? We told her, we said, look, Fridays are Dad's and my day to be home
That's right.
by ourselves. It's almost like our date day now. And so, schedule your classes on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And she did it on Tuesday and Thursday, so she's got to be at the library all day on Friday.
Yeah, the Flower Mountain Library and I have just become...
She called me and she said the sewage pipe had broken at the library. And I said, well, find another library. Oh, gosh, now we're going to get letters.
Yeah.
So, there you go.
Oh, this has been fun, guys. Do you have anything else to add, anybody? I mean, any, like, words of wisdom?
Nope.
Hey, you guys give it up for these folks coming up here because that's... You know, it's not the easiest thing. It's not the easiest thing, so.
Yay. Oh, that's very sweet.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.